Arthur Penwright considered his life remarkably, if somewhat dully, ordinary. A mid-level accountant, a quiet apartment, a predictable routine. Perhaps it was the recent pressure of tax season that had left him feeling a bit frayed, a little more attuned to the minor discomforts of life, like the faint twinge in his lower left molar. A routine checkup with Dr. Heshman confirmed a small cavity. "Nothing to worry about, Arthur," Dr. Heshman had said, his smile meticulously bland, his eyes, however, holding a certain detached intensity. "We have a revolutionary new composite material, state of the art. It practically integrates with the tooth structure. You'll hardly know it's there." The way he almost caressed the word integrates sent a faint, inexplicable shiver down Arthur's spine. The procedure was unremarkable, save for a fleeting, peculiar sensation when Heshman cured the composite with the blue light. It wasn't pain, more like a tiny, cold resonance deep within the tooth, a vibration that seemed to hum for a moment then vanish. "Perfect," Heshman had declared, leaning back. A seamless integration. At first, Arthur did hardly know it was there. The twinge was gone, but about a week later, he began to notice it. Not a physical sensation, but a sound. Or rather, the impression of a sound, like faint tinnitus, a high-pitched, almost imperceptible hiss at the very edge of his hearing. He'd only catch it in moments of true silence, reading late at night or during lulls in the office din. He blamed stress, tired ears, too much coffee, but the phantom noise didn't fade. It grew, slowly, insidiously, coalescing from a vague hiss into faint, sibilant whispers. Fragmented words at first, like snatches of a distant, malicious conversation. Then, they began to solidify, to sharpen, and they seemed to be coming from inside his own head. No, more specifically, from that newly filled molar. Such a tiresome little man, it would breathe as he proofread spreadsheets. "She finds you utterly predictable," it would murmur as his wife Sarah recounted her day. Arthur would shake his head, press his fingers to his temples, but the whispers persisted, cool and clear. He started sleeping poorly, the quiet of the bedroom amplifying the insidious chorus. The whispers became more personal, more venomous. They'd point out the subtle condescension in his boss's voice, the veiled impatience in a colleague's smile, the tiny, almost invisible cracks in his marriage to Sarah, small deceptions he'd never noticed, fleeting expressions of boredom or resentment he'd been oblivious to. Paranoia began to bloom in the fertile ground of his unease. He found himself scrutinizing faces, dissecting conversations, the whispers providing a constant, cynical commentary. His jaw was perpetually clenched, and the filled tooth began to ache with a strange, cold throb, a counterpoint to the phantom warmth Heshman had described. He went back to Dr. Heshman, his voice tight with the desperation he tried to conceal. "The filling, doctor. I think there's something wrong with it. I'm hearing things." Dr. Heshman listened with that same unnerving, placid expression. He took x-rays, tapped the tooth with a metal instrument. Arthur flinched, not from pain, but from the way the cold throb in the tooth seemed to intensify under Heshman's touch. "The x-ray is perfect, Arthur," Heshman said smoothly, his eyes lingering on the image for a moment too long. "The composite has integrated flawlessly. No inflammation, no cracks. Perhaps you're experiencing some referred stress? Auditory hallucinations are not unheard of in such cases." There was a glint in his eye, a minuscule upturn at the corner of his lips that Arthur found deeply unsettling. He tried to explain to Sarah, but how could he? That his tooth was whispering to him? She listened with a worried frown, suggested he take a vacation, see a doctor, a different kind of doctor. The whispers jeered at her concern, twisting it into pity, into manipulative condescension. "She thinks you're losing your mind, Arthur." Pathetic. He retreated further into himself, with his sole malevolent confidant. The nature of the whispers shifted again. They moved from commentary to suggestion. Small, mean-spirited things at first. "Don't return his call. Let him struggle." Or, "A little salt in her sugar bowl. She deserves a surprise." Arthur found himself fighting these urges, a cold sweat breaking out on his skin, but the resistance was exhausting. The cold throb in his molar was constant now, a chilling reminder of the foreign presence fused within him. Then came the commands, direct and devoid of subtlety. That cat next door, always yowling, a little antifreeze in his dish would quiet it nicely. Arthur recoiled in horror, but the command repeated, louder, more insistent, the tooth pulsing with a cold, demanding energy. He would wake in the night, drenched in sweat, the voice in his molar, a relentless, driving force, his own thoughts barely a whisper beneath its chilling dominance. He realized, with a terror that froze his soul, what Heschman's integration truly meant. The composite wasn't just a filling, it was a conduit. Something had been sealed inside him, something cold and knowing, and it was now a part of him, whispering its poison into his very being. The final command came on a bleak Tuesday morning, the whispers a deafening chorus in his skull. He stood in his office, the heavy glass paperweight cool and solid in his trembling hand. His boss was approaching, a look of mild annoyance on his face. He's always looked down on you, Arthur, and his smug superiority. Show them all what you're truly capable of. Now, Arthur. Now. The cold in his tooth flared, a spike of icy triumph. Arthur Penwright smiled, a wide, terrible smile that didn't reach his eyes, and raised his hand. Okay, here is the story, Dr. Albright's Porcelain Perfection, aiming for approximately 5,000 characters, written in US English with a focus on horror and suspense. Fictional story. Clara loathed her smile. It was, by all objective standards, perfectly adequate. But to her, it was a tapestry of minor imperfections. A slightly crooked incisor, a canine that was a shade too yellow, a gum line that wasn't quite symmetrical. These perceived flaws gnawed at her confidence, making her cover her mouth when she laughed, her joy always tinged with self-consciousness. It was this gnawing insecurity that led her to seek out the services of Dr. Alistair Albright. His name was spoken in hushed tones in certain more shadowed circles of the city, often accompanied by a shiver. They said he wasn't just a dentist, but an artist, a sculptor of smiles capable of achieving an almost supernatural porcelain perfection. His discreetly located practice was a relic from a bygone era, all dark, heavy mahogany, faded velvet upholstery in the waiting room, and the faint, unsettlingly sweet scent of cloves mingling with something else, something faintly chemical and metallic. The walls were adorned not with bland dental diagrams, but with before-after portraits. The befores were unremarkable, average faces. The afters, however, were unnerving. Each subject boasted a dazzlingly white, impeccably uniform smile. Yet, in every photograph, the eyes above these perfect smiles seemed hollow, distant, their expressions strangely fixed, as if the joy displayed was merely a meticulously crafted, superficial layer. Dr. Albright himself was a figure of unnerving serenity. Tall and gaunt, with long, pale fingers that moved with a delicate precision, he exuded an aura of calm that felt more predatory than soothing. During Clara's consultation, he examined her mouth with a disconcerting intensity, his touch feather-light yet probing. An interesting canvas, he murmured, his voice like rustling silk, his gaze making Clara feel like a specimen. He spoke less of dental health and more of aesthetic harmony and the purity of the perfect line. He subtly dismissed her natural features, highlighting each tiny flaw she already obsessed over, making his promise of unblemished perfection all the more irresistible. True beauty, my dear Clara, he said, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his thin lips, requires the finest materials and a sculptor who understands their true potential. The procedure itself was a hazy, scented blur. Clara drifted in and out of consciousness under the influence of the sweet-smelling gas, Dr. Albright administered, vaguely aware of pressure, of delicate scraping sounds, of soft, murmured instructions she couldn't quite comprehend. When she finally awoke, her mouth throbbed with a dull ache, her lips feeling swollen and strange. Dr. Albright gently handed her a silver-backed mirror. Gazing at her reflection, Clara gasped. Her smile was breathtaking, utterly flawless. Each tooth was a perfectly shaped, luminous pearl, arranged in an impeccable arc. It was the smile she had always dreamed of. Yet, as the initial awe subsided, a profound unease settled in. It felt too wide, stretching her lips into a rictus that wasn't entirely her own. It was too tight, as if the porcelain was a beautiful, unyielding mask fused to her face. Over the following weeks, the physical ache faded, but the smile remained a constant, brilliant, and utterly inflexible fixture. She discovered, to her growing dismay, that she couldn't quite make it falter, no matter her mood. When she felt sad, the smile remained, a grotesque counterpoint to the tears in her eyes. When anger flared, the perfect, serene curve of her lips mocked her inner turmoil. Her other facial expressions seemed muted, as if the dominant perfection of her smile had leached the authenticity from them. She began to notice others in the city, at galas, in quiet cafes, on the street. Individuals with that same unmistakable, dazzlingly perfect, yet subtly inhuman smile. Their eyes held the same hollow, distant quality as those in Dr. Albright's photographs. When their gazes met, there was no warmth, no shared camaraderie, only a silent, chilling acknowledgement of a beautiful, terrible secret, a shared understanding of something precious irrevocably lost. Driven by a creeping, sickening dread, Clara found herself outside Dr. Albright's darkened office late one night, the lock-valid type on the old oak door. Inside, the cloying scent of cloves and chemicals was stronger. Her heart hammered as she navigated the shadowy rooms by the light of her phone, eventually finding a small, unmarked door at the end of a dimly lit corridor. It was unlocked. The room beyond was cool, almost refrigerated, and it was filled not with dental equipment, but with shelves upon shelves of delicate, impossibly lifelike porcelain masks. Dozens of them, each capturing a unique, nuanced human expression with breathtaking realism, a shy, hesitant smile, a look of quiet contemplation, a burst of unrestrained laughter, a frown of thoughtful concern, the subtle arch of an intrigued eyebrow. These were not generic molds. Each was an individual masterpiece of stolen emotion. On a polished marble workbench in the center of the room lay an array of bizarre, non-dental tools, fine scalpels, delicate silver probes, instruments that looked designed for dissecting something far more fragile than tooth enamel. Beside them, preserved under glass, were what looked terrifyingly like bundles of fine, gossamer threads. Or perhaps, she thought with a surge of nausea, carefully extracted human nerves. Still faintly luminescent, the truth crashed down on Clara with sickening force. Dr. Albright wasn't merely crafting porcelain smiles. He was a collector, a thief of human expression. He meticulously harvested the genuine emotional range from his patients, their joy, their sorrow, their very essence, leaving behind only the beautiful, empty, porcelain facade of a perfect, unwavering smile. Her own genuine smile, with all its unique imperfections and the emotions it once conveyed, was likely now just another exquisite, lifeless mask in this horrifying gallery of stolen souls. Mark's dentophobia wasn't a casual dislike. It was a visceral, cold, sweat-inducing terror that had haunted him since a botched, agonizing wisdom tooth extraction in his late teens. The memory of the cracking sound, the dismissive dentist, and the weeks of throbbing pain had cemented a deep-seated dread of everything dental. So when a searing agony in his lower jaw culminated in the diagnosis of an abscessed molar requiring an urgent root canal, Mark felt a familiar wave of panic press over him. He'd put off even routine checkups for years, and now this. His research, driven by desperation, led him to Dr. Evelyn Hayes. Her clinic's website promised anxiety-free dentistry and gentle sedation options. The photo showed a woman with a soft, matronly smile and kind eyes. During the hurried consultation, she listened to his stammered fears with an almost beatific calm. "Oh, My dear Mark, she said, her voice a soothing balm, we have just the thing for you. Full nitrous oxide sedation. We call it the sweet air. You'll simply drift into a lovely, peaceful oblivion, and when you wake, it'll all be over. You won't feel a thing. I promise. Oblivion sounded like heaven. The treatment room was a study in calculated serenity. Pastel walls, soft, ambient music, faint, pleasant scent of vanilla. Hayes exuded an almost unnerving aura of professional kindness. A smile a little too bright, her reassurances a little too practical. The assistant, a young man named Kevin with a perpetually neutral expression, moved with quiet efficiency, preparing the instruments. Mark lay back in the chair, heart hammering against his ribs, his hope for a painless escape warring with the ingrained terror. The nasal hood was placed over his nose. Just breathe normally, Mark. Dr. Hayes pleaded. Deep, slow breaths of the sweet air. Gas hissed faintly, carrying a cloying, almost saccharine odor beneath the vanilla. Mark focused on his breathing, a litany of, it'll be over soon, repeating in his mind. The edges of his vision began to soften. The soft music seemed to warp, notes bending and stretching. Dr. Hayes' voice, offering more soothing words, started to sound distant, echoing as if from the end of a long tunnel. A pleasant warmth spread through his limbs, a heavy, languid feeling. This isn't so bad, he thought, a sense of relief washing over him. Oblivion, his eyelids grew heavy, and he surrendered to the encroaching fog. But the fog did not bring peace. It brought a twisting, sickening metamorphosis. The pastel walls around him seemed to pulse, colors shifting from calming blue to a bruised, unhealthy purple. Shadows in the corners of the room deepened, coalescing into shapes that rise just beyond clear sight. The gentle hum of the dental equipment escalated, first into a low, guttural throb that vibrated through the chair and into his bones, then into a high-pitched, metallic whine that scraped at his auditory nerves. Dr. Hayes, who had been leaning over him with that fixed, kind smile, began to change. Her face elongated, skin stretching taut over sharp cheekbones. Her smile widened, impossibly, grotesquely, revealing teeth that were too long, too pointed, like a row of gleaming ivory needles. Her eyes, those kind, matronly eyes, multiplied. Two more pairs blinked open on her forehead, black and glistening, regarding him with cold, alien curiosity. Kevin, the assistant, contorted beside her, his limbs stretched and thinned, becoming spidery and multi-jointed. His fingers, now tipped with razor-sharp, gleaming silver hooks instead of nails, twitched with eager anticipation. The sterile instrument tray beside Mark became a butcher's table. The drill, once a source of mundane fear, now seemed to writhe in the assistant's grip, its burner elongating into a vicious, corkscrewing proboscis that whined with a hungry eagerness. The dental mirror, held aloft by one of Dr. Hayes' newly sprouted hands, no longer reflected the room but showed a swirling, chaotic vortex of screaming faces and impossible geometry. The suction tube, forgotten by his chief, uncoiled like a pale, questing tentacle, tips pulsing wetly. And the overhead operating light, the one that had seemed like a benign sun, transformed into a single, massive, multifaceted eye. Its iris a kaleidoscope of burning colors, staring down at him with malevolent, unblinking intensity. Mark tried to scream, to bolt from the chair, but his body was a leaden weight, utterly unresponsive to his frantic mental command. He was paralyzed, prisoner in his own flesh, a silent, horrified spectator to his own violation. He felt everything. Not pain as he knew it, not the sharp, localized agony of a drill hitting a nerve, but something far more profound, more existentially dreadful. It was a cold, meticulous dismantling, a scraping away not just of diseased tissue, but of his very essence. He felt a chilling intrusion, as if icy tendrils were probing the deepest recesses of his mind, cataloging his fears, his memories. The monstrous Dr. Hayes and his fighting assistants chittered and cooed above him, their voices a symphony of wet clicks, guttural trills, and sibilant whispers that sounded like a mockery of human language, words that clawed at the edges of insanity, hinting at cosmic horrors beyond comprehension. They worked with a terrifying leisurely precision, their too many eyes gleaming with a detached, scientific interest, occasionally pausing to examine something they'd extracted on a sliver of dark, pulsating material. He felt a profound sense of loss, as if something vital was being taken from him, something irreplaceable, while simultaneously, something cold and alien was being meticulously implanted. Then, with a jarring, brutal suddenness, the nightmare shattered. He gasped, a raw, tearing sound, his body convulsing in the chair. The taste of blood and antiseptic filled his mouth. His jaw throbbed with an agony far exceeding anything he braced himself for. Doctor. Hayes was there, patting his shoulder, her face once again composed in its mask of gentle concern, though her smile seemed a fraction too wide, her eyes a little too bright. There now, Mark. All done, she said, her voice back to a soothing cadence. You were dreaming quite a bit, muttering and twitching, but you sailed right through it. See? No pain at all, really. Kevin, the assistant, was wiping down the instrument tray, his expression as bland and unremarkable as before. The office was pristine, pastel walls calm, the vanilla scent cloying as ordinary. Mark felt a wave of profound disorientation, his mind reeling. Was it just the gas? Particularly vivid drug-induced nightmare? But the depth of the violation he felt, the echoing horror, felt too real, too deeply ingrained. The recovery was brutal. The pain in his jaw was relentless. But worse was the lingering dread, the chilling certainty that what he had experienced wasn't merely a hallucination. Days later, while gingerly rinsing his swollen mouth, he saw it. On the soft, tender tissue beneath his tongue, almost hidden in the crease, was a tiny, exquisitely sharp marking. It wasn't a cut, not a stitch, but a perfectly etched symbol, like a miniature obsidian black glitter. It burned with a faint, cold itch. The flashback started then, sudden, vivid intrusions of the nightmare into his waking hours. The chittering language echoing in a quiet room, the fleeting image of Dr. Hayes' needle-toothed smile in a stranger's face, a phantom sensation of spidery fingers brushing his skin. He began to dread sleep, terrified of what lay waiting for him in the sweet air of oblivion. He felt marked, tainted, as if a door had been opened during his sedation, a door to a place of cold, calculating torment, and a sliver of that place had followed him back, embedded beneath his tongue, a silent, itching promise of return.